Oh, we've got some fun stuff happening already up here, so I better call this meeting to order. Calling to order the Legal and Finance Committee meeting for the City of Rapid City at 12:30 p.m. on December 15th in Council Chambers. First up, we've got roll call and determination of quorum. Drew? Here.
Lehman? Here. Nordstrom?
Here.
Solomon? Weifenbach? We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Next up is the adoption of the agenda. Move to adopt by Nordstrom, second by Solomon. All in favor? All opposed? And the agenda is adopted. I would like to take just a minute to remind everybody this is L&I week. It's very exciting. We've got a lot of people in town. Please do your best to welcome them. I know that the council members are going to a number of events for L&I. So this morning, last 2 mornings, I've attended the Lakota Nations Educational Conference. That's out at the Ramkota. And there's about 500 educators out there that take classes and listen to speeches and take workshops. It happens through the first 3 days of the conference. So anyway, just an exciting thing that's going on out there. I remember when I was really first made aware of L&I, a friend of mine said to me, he said, do you know what the second most lucrative time or most money-making event is in Rapid City after the Sturgis Rally? And I said I didn't. And he let me know that it was indeed L&I, that the teams come here, the parents come here. They do so much more than basketball, and they fill our hotels, they spend money for holidays, and really are a great boon. So let's make them all feel as welcome as we can whenever we see somebody from the teams or someone that's out and about, maybe even seeming a little lost, help them out, and just make sure that we are the greeting city, because they are very welcome to Rapid City at any time of year, but especially now. We'll go on to consent items 1 through 14. Public comment is open. We got one comment. Thank you. Okay, Pamela Short, if you could go up and give us your name and your address, and this is on the city cleanup project.
Hello, my name is Pamela Shorter. I live at 1301 North 7th Street here in Rapid. I have a home up there. I've been there 26 years, come this December 24th. And the city came or left me a cleanup notice, and was supposed to come on September 23rd to clean up the property or re-inspect it. Well, we had cleaned it up, ready for this project, and they never came. They came on about the 27th, I believe. We left, we came home, they were done, so we thought, and I have rental property too. So with them being done, I have 2 sheds, a double-car garage, and I have a lot of inventory for these rentals. So we started working on that, getting ready to go up to Newell and supply this house. And they came back in 9 days after that first date, and they cleaned everything. I mean, we were shucking around everything, getting tables and closet doors and everything, and there's so much that they hauled off that we didn't even know they were coming back. Figured they finished up the first day, no problem, and they took 4 sets of bifold closet doors. They took a table, old antique drop-leaf table I was working on in the garage even, I mean in my driveway that I was refinishing, and they didn't communicate that they were coming back later on or anything. So we just continued with life, and when we had to take off, I had to go to court for my son that day, that they came back on 9 days later, I think. Anyway, in October 10th maybe or something, and hauled off everything. Everything I had to replace is costing me far more than what the city has billed me for, which I had a mini stroke in August and had to have surgery. I left town for a while, and I forgot my point.
Ma'am, what would you like to see done? That's probably what you should just get to, is just tell
Oh
us.
yeah, I was gone. I came home to a bill in my, and 6 days later they wanted $24.50 paid, or I got $100. Well, I got the new bill, which the 100 was added on there on the 6th of December, and I can't afford to replace everything that they hauled off and pay this bill as well, or get a tax note, etc. I feel with the untimely manner that they came back with no communication. I was carrying on, and like I said, I lost a lot of inventory.
All right, thank you. I don't think we can really rectify that now, but Vicki, would she be the one to talk to you? Oh, item 21, I'm sorry. Okay, so when we get to item 21, maybe we'll handle that then. Okay. I didn't know she was on the actual agenda. Sorry about that. So we'll come back to you. So public comment is now closed. And now we go on to the members of the committee here, if you'd like to pull any items. You would? Okay. Let's see. Mr. Nordstrom would like to hear if the directors here have any comments or anything on the consent items that are coming up today. Finance Officer, Finance Director Pauline Sumption, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out on number 8, that is an agreement we've had with the county for quite some time. They did refinance the debt, which then reduces our annual payment to them, as it also reduces our share of that debt for the various projects, for the evidence building, the energy plant, parking ramp, and I think there might have been one other building, but I can't recall off the top of my head. I know it's in my memo. But yeah, so those payments will be going down because they saved some interest rate money.
All right. Anyone else? Nope, seeing no more lights, then we won't hold any more discussion from the directors. Okay, back to our group up here, or to the committee. Anything you'd like to pull off for today's discussion? Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Items 3, 4, and 6, please.
Okay. All right. Seeing no one else, motion to approve the balance by Lance Lehman, second by Nordstrom. All in favor? Those opposed, and the balance is approved. So we go to item number 3, Police Department. Approve the joint powers agreement between the State of South Dakota Office of Attorney General Division of Criminal Investigation, the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, and the City of Rapid City for shared psychological services. And we go to Jason Solomon.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I make a motion to approve. If I can get a second and retain the floor, please.
Motion by Solomon, second by Lehman.
And may I direct a question to our police chief?
Yes, go ahead.
Chief, would you mind sharing with us, I know this is something we've done before, but I think it's good for folks to be reminded what this shared service is all about, and how effective it's been as well.
Yes, so this is a joint agreement that we enter into with the Division of Criminal Investigation from the state of South Dakota and the Pennington County Sheriff's Office. And the Rapid City Police Department is also a part of this team. And, oh, I think I jumped ahead to number 4.
Yeah, we're on 3.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's right.
Nope, this is our agreement that we utilized for a shared psychologist amongst the Police Department, Sheriff's Office, and Division of Criminal Investigation. And What this does is it allows us to have an on-staff psychologist in our building, free to utilize for anybody that might need his services. And this has been an incredible endeavor for us because, you know, law enforcement in this year, and especially this year, we've seen some pretty rough things and a lot of violence in our community. And this allows us to have the ability to have a doctor in our building to help with our wellness program. And, you know, the police department, we probably wouldn't be able to, it'd probably be difficult for us to hire a psychologist on our own, but based upon these three agencies banding together, we're able to have one to utilize. And I know we've saved careers by having this individual in our building.
Obviously, with the kind of situations that many of our officers have to deal with, this is very helpful. I do wonder, does this at all translate to the fire department, or is that a separate deal, or is that part of this agreement as well?
We have worked with the fire department, and we have allowed the doc to work with them. Rapid City is listed as being on the agreement, so that does include us to have the ability to utilize fire services as well.
And would you mind if I talk to the fire chief, Chair?
Sure.
Chief Culberson, would you mind weighing in on that, on the value of that for your crews?
We do use their services. We do pay a fee for that, and we're along with that. That's why I was looking at this agreement. I didn't see this coming forward, so thought I'd better look to see what was changing. But yeah, we utilize their services, and psychological services for us is extremely important. I think we'll see that continue to evolve, and we do provide some services within our department as far as peer support that coordinate with Dr. Belisle and make sure we're providing the best service to our responders.
Okay, very well. I definitely support taking care of the folks who have to deal with pretty heavy stuff on a day-to-day basis, so thank you. I yield.
Thank you. I have a question for the police chief, please. Hello.
Hi.
So is this individual on duty all day and available then for nighttime calls as well?
Yes, so he has an office right in our building, and we have him located in a fairly discreet location. But also, he is available on call. So as you know, first responders, we are 24/7 operations, and we have called him after hours to assist. And additionally, he's been a pretty important piece of our negotiation team for our SWAT team. So when we have a call out, many times he will respond and to either speak with people involved directly or to give our folks insight when they're trying to negotiate with somebody. So yeah, long way of answering, but yes, he's been available outside of 8 to 5.
So I don't really monitor this particular thing, but is there an uptick on weekends, generally speaking?
In regards to like calls for him?
Services, yeah.
It kind of depends. If there's something that we need to address immediately, we will. But for the most part, if it's not an emergency type of situation, he does a lot of his work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
I see no other questions in the queue. The motion is to approve. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Let's see here. Next up, number 4, approve joint powers agreement between the State of South Dakota, Office of the Attorney General Division of Criminal Investigation, the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, and the City of Rapid City for shared services of the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force. And this is Jason Solomon again.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, I move to approve. If I can get a second and retain the floor.
Motion by Solomon to approve, second by Lehman.
Thank you. And may I direct a question to our police chief once more? Chief, first of all, an overview of what this agreement is so that we have an understanding, and then I'll have a follow-up to that.
What this does is it allows us to work together with the South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation as well as the Pennington County Sheriff's Office to collaborate on our Internet Crimes Against Children unit. Specifically, this helps us with the needs for a forensic examiner, folks that have expertise in when we seize a computer that has child pornography on it. These individuals have the ability to take that information off of the computer. and it's a very specialized type of training. For us, what this equates to is an efficiency. Instead of all three of these agencies working solo and having their own resources, we're able to band together and work together and thereby create an efficiency for taxpayers.
Okay, follow up to that. We have great people who work in these units. What do we do to make sure that they stay in a healthy place with what they have to see on a regular basis and the weight that that carries? Yes,
They unfortunately do have to see some terrible things, and they are dealing with, I would say, evil, what they have to deal with on a daily basis. And as I had mentioned, wellness is very important to us. It's something that we've really focused in on, and so we want to make sure we're protecting our folks. And what we do is regularly, the folks working on this unit, they actually meet with the psychologist that we just talked about to make sure that they are okay and they have resources. And based upon the doctor's evaluation, we allow them either to continue, or if folks need a break to do something else for a while, we will take that route if we have to. But we lean very heavily on the doctor's opinion and the employee's comfort level.
Okay. Last, and I just really kind of want to put something on the record, if I could. Regarding this topic, I just think it's important to hear, and I think most of my colleagues would agree, but well, with all that divides us, I think this is what should unite us, that Rapid City, South Dakota should be the scariest place in the nation for pedophiles. Evil is real and often hides in plain sight, pretending to be good, and this is why we must fight against normalizing the sexualization of children, reject any attempt to excuse deviant behavior, and report anyone who seeks to harm children. So my message that I want to send is this: if you are preying on children, online or in person, be afraid, because the law is coming after you. The thunder will roll, the lightning will strike, and justice will be served. And I think I just want to make that very clear. I think it's important for us to say and call it out for what it is. Appreciate all the hard work of those fighting this battle on the front lines. I yield.
Thank you, Jason. Well said. And we have a motion to approve, and we have no other names in the queue. So, motion to approve. We're voting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Nobody says anything. Those opposed, the motion carries. Okay. All right, we go on to item number 6. Approve the 2022 airport rates and charges. And once again, we go to Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I direct a question to our airport director?
Is it going to make us cry?
No, I'm more mad about that last issue than I am this one.
Gosh, okay, all right.
But this is, I think, a question I think a lot of the public has,
Okay.
Mr. Dame.
Go ahead.
I understand rates have to be adjusted from time to time. Is there a charge for dropping off people at the airport and driving away, and thus picking them up as well?
When it comes to dropping off and picking up people, no, there's not a charge for that. What we're talking about are those folks who are doing business on the airport. Mm-hmm. So if you're offering a courtesy shuttle that gets you to that shuttle those people to your hotel where you're going to do business based on that person, or if you're a shuttle company, if you're a TNC, a transportation network company like Lyft, it's those folks who are doing business on the airport who would be subject to that fee.
What's the purpose behind that?
So when you look at, number one, we as an airport need to be as self-sustainable as possible. First and foremost, it's in our grant assurances, every grant that we sign. Based on that, we should be charging for certain things that are somewhat consistent around the industry. With that right now, we do not have a ground transportation charge. We have an agreement with Airport Shuttle. So Airport Shuttle is the only one who pays a ground transportation fee, which has really caused some inequities amongst businesses who are vying for doing business at the airport within the ground transportation arena. We've been working for quite some time to try and rectify that. Matter of fact, we've been trying to get this updated and this policy done for the better part of the last 5 years. The reason why we've delayed the policy is because there hasn't been a huge need for it, because the airport shuttle has done a very good job of meeting the needs that are out there. As we're seeing more and more competition out there, it's causing more and more issues, and we need to get everybody on a level playing field so the people who are doing business out there are treated equally. With that, as we start to look at, we're doing $3 million in road investments right now at the airport. We've got another $2 million in shoulder investments that need to be made. So as we look at the user piece or user aspect of it, these fees go into paying for the improvements that we have towards the roadway. Currently today, you're getting very little back on that area of the business. So based on that, we've got to really level the playing field and start to look at a good rate and charge to be able to make sure that we're supporting that asset.
Okay. What kind of annual revenue do we expect with these changes? Is it enough to pay for those, or is it partially? Do you have any idea?
So what I would say at this point is, today we make about $22,000 a year on that. So, really as we look towards the future on this, we're probably looking at about double that. So in an effort to pay for that, you can see there's a large difference between what it's costing us today versus what it is that we even would be making in the back end of this. The point is that we're looking at this working towards the future repairs that need to be made. So we are making these changes now, just like with the sewer as well. We're going to put in a private sewer line at a cost of $3.5 million. Based on that, we're not going to pay for it out of what rates and charges are in here. What we're looking at is the long-term replacement of that system and getting a rate and charge in place for that. So as we look at, the money that would be collected on this today will go a long ways into paying for the changes that we need to make. It won't even hardly make a dent into it, but we've got to start somewhere.
Okay. And do you foresee any reduction in transportation services to and from the airport as a reaction to this fee?
Actually, we view it as, we've met with Airport Shuttle. From his standpoint, he's actually looking at how do I improve. I actually think you're going to drive better competition at the airport in terms of the transportation aspect of it.
Okay. All right. I imagine that any fee might either get absorbed or passed along to the consumer for like Lyft or Uber and that sort of thing too.
Yep, and this is a standard practice with that.
I think I paid airport charges in addition to my bills on those when I've traveled, if I remember right. So I don't think it's unusual. But just wanted to make sure we had all the information out there. Thanks for answering my questions.
Absolutely.
Chair recognizes Richie Nordstrom, sorry.
You're welcome. Madam Chair, if I could, I'd like to make a motion to approve. And if I get a second, retain the floor.
Motion by Nordstrom, second by Lehman. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to also follow up, if I may, to the director of the airport, Patrick Dame.
Go ahead.
Director Dame, I'm also looking at the surcharge, on the agreement, and I know that's something that's been needed for a long, long time out there at the airport, trying to get my computer to work here for me. And that is a new fee that's the customers will be seeing. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct.
And then you've got one other, and you answered all the other questions that you had provided for us through Alderman Solomon. And then the other question I have is new miscellaneous rates and charges. That's another new one on there. Can you elaborate that to just a little bit further? I'm looking at page 2 of page 4 on the memo that came from the airport board.
Yep, so based on these, we have a list that are highlighted in the miscellaneous charges. So as you can see from that, the rally truck parking fee was previously $175. That's been changed to $200. The annual operating permit, when we put the operating permits in place 7 years ago, the expectation is that we were going to charge a fee for the operator permits to the businesses that are doing that. That fee has never been initiated. We are at the point now where we think we need to put that into place, and with that, the board has delayed the implementation of it for notice, but does feel that the same need is in place, that those people running businesses at the airport who are applying for these permits, that we are charging for these permits. And that was the intent in the beginning when this process predated my coming on as director, but the fees were never put in place. So that's where we're moving on that one. Sorry, my writing's a little bit, or the writing on this graph is a little bit small. The special operator permit, we get things like TV crews coming in who do filming at the airport. So we have a special operating permit for that. We've got a security video fee. Again, that covers our time for what it takes us to go through and pull footage. And then we've got our mobile runway crosses. We've got some lighted crosses that we borrow to other airports, and really in the process, when they close their runway, when they come rent a piece of equipment from us, it should be a rental and not something that we just allow them to do with no compensation. So it is an asset that we have.
Yeah, thank you. That takes care of most everything that I was curious about. And again, my computer is stuck here. And where this originated from, and you said it came before your time on the airport, is that part of a master plan or some kind of thought process that was such as a to-do list that was provided before you coming on board? And that's where this is coming from?
Just the one piece of the business permit piece of it. So when prior to my getting there, they did an overhaul of the airport's primary guiding documents. Based on that, they laid out the playing field for how businesses do business on the airport. So within that, we have 3 primary guiding documents, and each year, the businesses will, or each 2 years, the businesses will put in their permit for doing business on the airport. So all that piece was put into place.
Yes.
The recommendation at that time was to add the fee at that time, but then the opinion was to give people time on the fee piece of it. So that section was never implemented.
Okay.
At this point now, we're recommending that be implemented.
Very good. And then I see it's also gone through your airport board, so it's been vetted very thoroughly. So
That's correct.
thank you. I yield. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have a couple of follow-up questions, too, for Patrick. Patrick, when we're doing business with the airport van, is that supplied by you through the airport? Somehow it's just charged? I mean, I don't know exactly what that relationship is.
The airport shuttle van, is that what you're asking? That is provided by a private business who bid a ground transportation contract. So based on that, we did an RFP for airport ground transportation, and they've been in place for a number of years, as you guys all know, much longer than our last bid process here. So they bid a 5% of gross revenue, so they pay the airport, but no one else does.
So Lyft and Uber people don't pay anything?
No.
In a recent trip, on a recent flight, I saw that the Uber and Lyft vehicles had to park a little bit farther away, and that the families were given first choice of, the better spots, as well as the airport van. That could be some way of handling. It's going to just increase, it will. And just to make it more I guess, convenient for families that are trying to get out there and pick up someone. You might designate some zones for that. Maybe it's not necessarily yet, but I think it's coming.
So, yes, with that, we do have zones that are created into this, not necessarily for the TNCs. The TNCs are more towards the waiting lot because they have the ability to, once someone calls them, to drive up to the curb and be able to pick someone
Yep.
up. The cabs will have their own designated section, the vans will have their designated sections, buses and limousines will have their designated sections. And the other thing that we're doing is we're limiting the number that each can have up there, so it gives more variety to be able to access that side of the transportation curb.
Yeah, well, it's always kind of a trick when you're landing somewhere where you're not very familiar with where everything's supposed to be, so that is also very helpful when you can just say, that lot is right there,
Yep.
and know where you're going. Is there any way to identify those people too? I mean, I could almost see us coming up between the police and you guys coming up with some kind of a sticker for Lyft or Uber. There are those horror stories that are out there that people that aren't qualified or Uber drivers that are picking folks up. So that's a question for another day, but it's just something maybe to keep in your mind so we'll know who's designated, who's able to be out there legally. So
They will have stickers. That is part of our rules and regulations on this as well. They do have to have identifiable, they have to have city, they have to be permitted by the city. So, you know, everything will be put into place on that so that we know because they've gone through the city process that they're approved to work within the city, but then they'll have an airport sticker as well.
that's really terrific news, especially for women traveling on their own. So that's really great to hear. So with that brings me to the end of my questions. And we have a motion on the floor to approve. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And the motion carries. Now that takes us through all of our non-consent. Non-consent, we've got items 15 through 21. Public comment is open. We've already heard from Ms. Pamela Maslak. And so then we'll go through the rest of the items here, Pamela, and then when we get to your items, then we'll talk to you, okay? Because you just wait, just hold on just a minute, okay? Let's see here. Non-consent items. Mayor's Office, number 15. Approve 2022 non-union COLA and wage scales. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'll make the motion to approve and retain the floor if I get a second.
Second. Motion by Nordstrom, second by Drew. Thank
you. I think this is something that's overdue as well, but if I can get probably Mr. Strout, would you care to handle a brief explanation about what this is all about, since not seeing anyone from the mayor's office representing us here? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I agree with your first statement, this is overdue, but where we're at right now is, so when we came to you in July, we had a plan that this was going to be done in-house. And so that was going to be a combination of my office and the mayor's office. Working through this, we had access to good industry data that we got from the various departments. And we also partnered with Elevate to use their data mining tool to create a wage scale. And while both of those tools are they're good tools and they helped us out, we couldn't shake the feeling as we were presenting this to the directors that this wasn't a true compensation study. This is a bunch of non-compensation experts giving it their best try, but we were worried that if we cut corners on this, like we did with the last wage study and the Afl-Cio implementation, it would go over about the same way. And so the mayor took it upon himself earlier in December to switch gears and try to actually do a true wage study, which we haven't done since I've been here. It's been my understanding, I think it was 2010. Some of the other directors have been there longer than I have. So we're overdue. And so the idea would be is that we give our employees a cost of living increase in January. As we know, inflation is out of control right now, and we don't want our current employees to fall behind. But then we would do an RFP, a request for proposal, for a full suite compensation study. And that's one where we would have consultants actually come in and interview with the people that do the work and get a real idea of the work being done, and then present a finished product to this body and hopefully convince them that this was well done, no corners were cut, and this is the best move for our employees. So that would come to you if this was approved in January, after we've got sample RFPs, and I'm working on them right now, and we would shoot them out as fast as we could to get people to start bidding on this and see if we can get a competitive price. But we want to get some product that's really going to be able to be sold to our employees as not cutting costs, given the proper resources. And then we would bring it back to you for any implementations. But the proposed non-union wage scale, the one that's actually here, this has been in the works for quite a while, and I think it's a good scale, because it's basically just steps. And what we're doing is we're getting away from the grades. And the problem with grades is if you get true wage data, you have to fit that within a pre-established grade. And so without making it too complicated, if we got wage data that said a job should be paid between $30,000 and $40,000, that should be the beginning and the end. Well, one grade might be 25 to 35, and the next grade is 35 to 45. So we have to take that job and either stick it in the lower grade or stick it in the higher grade. And so but then it's not a good process. So with this, if we found that example from 30 to 40,000, we'd find the closest step to 30 and the closest step to 40, and that would be the grade. We would actually be using true data rather than shoehorning jobs as close as possible. So I think, and another advantage of this is this has a cascading percentage between steps. And so when you make your steps uniform, that means a person at 33,000, if they get a 1.5% increase, that is a lot less than a person making $100,000. So if you keep those percentages uniform, we're actually rewarding the higher paid employees more than the lower paid. Right. But on this scale, the lowest wages have a 4% increase, and then it drops down to 2, and then it drops down to 1 at the higher end. So it's actually, you're advancing the wages of our lower end workers who are in the beginning of their careers, maybe not making as much money. That's going at a higher percentage than our higher waged earners who are more established in their career. So I know that was a long answer, but hopefully I got what you needed.
Yeah, I think you hit on one of the points that I've been really curious about from the previous wage scale, is that it had a high potential of the a subordinate employee passing over a senior employee in salary. And it appears that this will help mitigate some of that.
It absolutely
if
can.
not totally eliminate it.
Yeah, we will have situations, if you have a brand new supervisor, supervising someone who's been with the city for 25 years, there's a chance that they're going to be making less than that subordinate, but that's okay, because that person has earned their 25-year salary, and just because you're a manager doesn't mean we automatically have to slot that person ahead of their highest paid employee. It doesn't happen often, right? But with a wage scale that uses industry data, it won't happen very often.
And then the other anomaly that I was observing was that even if you promoted within, and it is a possibility that the supervisor, say for example, got promoted, it is a possibility that they would be starting off less than their previous position. And again, it didn't happen very often, but
right.
But this, again, the subordinate would be higher salaried than the supervisor. So.
Yeah, and you're right, and it doesn't happen often. But what the mayor's philosophy is, and I'll let him speak for himself on Monday, is that again, that's okay, because when you leave being a production type worker and go into management, you're changing your career path. Yep. So eventually you will have enough runway to pass that employee. But if you're 27 and fresh out of, get your MBA and you get a low-level supervisor job, you shouldn't automatically be making more than the person who's been here for 20 years and very established in their career. But it doesn't happen often, but keeping up wages and making sure we're doing wage studies and getting a good scale will minimize that.
Yes, I agree that the wage studies have got to be done. And then when the wage studies are being conducted, then I am more supportive of people getting actually interviewed during those processes versus just kind of taking position title and comparing it with another title, and they may not be deemed exactly lining up. So
we did find that in Afl-Cio, in that
Yes.
we would go, the company that we hired did what we asked them to do, but that's what they would do. They would say, well, this title matches up with this title, it must be the same job. And there wasn't much digging beyond that. And oftentimes it works, but oftentimes it doesn't.
Mr.
last
Nordstrom, oh, okay, I was going to read.
One last question, if I may, is that, yeah, I see my time has expired. One last question, and it has to do with your timetable that you established last summer of giving us reports. Are we caught up to speed on all the reports that we were going to get from your department now?
This really, this change in direction that Steve is, or excuse me, the mayor is proposing, if you've read the memo, that does catch you up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Chair recognizes Jason Solomon.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Director Strout, thank you for being here today and giving us this information. Well, I'm going to ask, I bet you know some of the questions I'm going to ask. The first one's just to get it out of the way. Is performance at all played into these pay increases?
With this new scale, with adopting the new scale, all we're doing is we're placing employees on the scale. Now, there's no performance-related measures on that. We're just moving them from the old scale to the new scale. Once we get this wage study, that's just establishing the grade. And so for a person to move on the scale after a placement, that would be tied to performance.
Okay. So may I offer some input?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm one member of this body, so take it for what it's worth. Of course, I encouraged you to do a compensation study back then, and I was told, we'll piece all these things together. Ignored, because you guys got it all figured out. Now it's being brought forward to us, so well, maybe you were right. What I actually think you ought to do, rather than, if you're going to go as far as interviewing employees, the first thing that might want to be considered is a reorg study. I think that what should happen, if you're going to go to the process of hiring somebody to interview people, then you should look at all of our departments and say, are we even structured the right way, especially maybe in the non-union, but just what departments are like, the positions that fall into that. And I'm not sure how often that has been done, but I think that would be a wise place to start, because then you find out, do these positions even need to exist? Do we need to add positions, modify positions, that sort of thing? Then two, the reason you have a wage study is to make sure that we remain competitive with the market. And the market, of course, is geographic, but also industry specific. So sometimes it's, what does a police officer go for in South Dakota, for example, which is helpful data. And also another one, though, is sometimes we have, let's say you're an administrative assistant, and that's probably more of a geographic market analysis, but a city engineer with that kind of specialty is probably, your market's more broad than geography. It's more industry-based.
Right.
So I think what we ought to do is look at the entire org study with a third party outside looking in, because we get our own biases in. Two, then a wage study based on what those positions are. And then from there, I absolutely think we should go to performance-based pay.
Oh, yeah.
And it should start with the non-union folks. I know my colleague, Mr. Nordstrom, is going to disagree with me on that. The reason I think it's important to start with non-union folks, because it rewards high performers. So if you're a high performer, you should be doing awesome. And it also incentivizes those who may not be. And I think that's important. It also can show the unions that this can work out really well, so we keep our best. I want to keep our best, and our worst, I don't want to keep you.
Right.
I want you to move along. thing is, I think we have a lot of good employees. I'm by and large very happy with our employees. I think they're incredibly talented. But the outside world, the real world outside of in the private sector, I mean, I can't imagine just everybody kind of getting an automatic raise every year. That's kind of wild to me, and I wish we all could keep up with inflation. And here we're asking to keep up with inflation, which I don't disagree with. The economic policies of our federal government had landed us in this position, so that's a tough situation. But I guess all that to say, what are your thoughts on a reorg study, then followed by a wage study, and then looking at performance-based pay increases in the future?
I think there is definite value, like you said. I know that the mayor has challenged some of the larger departments on his own to look at their own department and decide if that organization makes sense, because a lot of our department directors are new. But a third party would take out some of those biases, because we might not need this position, but we like this guy. He's a good dude. He's a good guy. We want to keep him. But if an outside entity comes in, they would take that bias out of it. So there is real value in that.
You also don't want to end up with the movie Office Space where you got some guy like, what do you really do here? I mean,
No.
those could be extremely lame. It's either done really well or poorly. So who you hire
I think it
is
really,
big.
yeah, we would have to look. I've never done a reorg study by a third party, so I'm sure there are firms out there that do that, but we would have to do a process and try to find someone to find that balance. So not come in and those corporate reorgs where we're going to have to cut 20% of the staff, and where does that cut come from?
Madam Chair, point of order. We're kind of getting off subject.
I believe so too, yes.
So if we could bring it back, and I apologize, I've got to get to another commitment. So if we can get back onto the scale, wage scale, and have this discussion.
As point of order to this,
Yeah.
your wage scale should be tied to what the job actually is. And my
That's what the
question is,
interviews-
he's talking
That's
about,
what the interviews are for.
right, the interviews. I'm saying if you're going to go that far, why not look at an org study?
I think that's a different study that has to be done, so.
Okay.
But anyway,
Chair's made a ruling, so.
yeah,
Yeah, I do feel that this is a good discussion. It really is. Maybe not here. Maybe this is something that we need to go back and look at again. I know that you're ready to get this done. We've been working on it since July. So I guess we'll just send this without recommendation to council. That's my only suggestions to you guys. And then maybe Rich and Jason, you can get together and get together some points on this. But, okay.
I'll make myself available to have that, to continue that conversation as well.
Yeah, I thought this committee was open for discussion. I'm sorry.
You are open for discussion. There's no question about that.
So I'm okay with sending it to council without recommendation.
The
I
motion,
don't think
yeah.
I can make the motion because I was speaking, but I can second it. I'll second it.
Motion has been made by Lance Lehman to send to council without recommendation, second by Jason Solomon. All in favor? And it sends to council without recommendation. And I know Richie has to go, so we wanted to get some kind of a finality to that particular item. Moves us on to 16. Authorize mayor and finance director to sign an agreement between the city of Rapid City and Lazy P6 Land Company Incorporated to resolve all disputes regarding the construction of the regional detention pond on Lazy P6 property. And I have a question for our attorney, Joel Landine. Joel, did I see that this got all settled for $85,000?
Not exactly. We've agreed to do some work. There's obviously a cost to the work.
Okay.
You know, that's not insignificant, but I think the Public Works Director was involved in the discussions and negotiations and believes it's not an issue and that there's sufficient money that's not going to cause any other projects to be reallocated. So.
This took so long. Anyway, okay, I just need a motion.
Move to approve?
Move to approve by Lehman.
You have to, Jason.
disagree, but I don't agree.
Second, and then I'll give you a question, okay? And Jason Solomon gives us a second, and Jason has the floor.
All right, I'm giving a second for the sake of moving this forward, but
Sure.
What happens if we don't approve this?
Then we have a regional detention pond on land that we do not own at this point or have an easement for, and that will need to be resolved. And likely, at this point, if we can't resolve it amicably, it'll only be resolved through litigation.
And the other party, they're receptive in this whole process, or are we just beginning this process?
No, I mean, they've been involved. Actually, it's too bad that Alderman Weifenbach isn't here today because frankly, he's been heavily involved in helping to, I guess, further the discussions between Lazy P6 and the city. So, you know, we've been involved with discussions for, as Alderman Drew said, for quite a while with Lazy P6.
Yes, we have.
Okay. Thank you. I'll yield.
Okay, I think we have a motion to approve. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed, and the motion passes. Let's see, number 17, authorized mayor and finance director to sign amendment between the city of Rapid City and FMG Engineering for South Truck Route DP element 16 culvert crossing, project number 21-2668 CIP or /CIP number 51331 in the amount of $195,482. This item is in conjunction with item 16. Move to approve by Solomon, seconded by Lehman. All in favor? Motion passes. Number 18, authorize mayor and finance director to sign a memorandum of understanding between the city of Rapid City and Local 1031, Council 65, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Afl-Cio, regarding the salary adjustments for bargaining unit employees in 2022.
Madam Chair, just to get a clarification from our city attorney, I know we're going to continue this item. When would you like that continued to?
I think we're pretty close with them. There's just actually a few technical things to make sure that it matches what we've agreed to. So I'm just asking for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay, to the next Legal and Finance Committee. So, well, I'll let Lance make that motion.
Okay.
Motion to move the item to the next Legal and Finance Committee
Second.
meeting?
All in favor? Okay. Lehman moves to move this item to the next Legal and Finance meeting, seconded by Solomon. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Finance Department, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6520 regarding supplemental appropriation number 8 for 2021.
Second.
It's been moved by Solomon, seconded by Lehman. All in favor? Aye. Item 21 has been removed from the schedule, and that brings us to item 21, which is your item, ma'am. Pamela Maslak, request to waive cleanup assessment fees at 13.
Madam Chair, we need to take action on item 20, please.
We do?
We do.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just thought it was gone away. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Item 20, Maria Holy Eagle, request to waive cleanup assessment fees at 150 Patton Street. Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to waive $530 of abatement and administrative fees due to some communication errors between code enforcement and the appellant.
Motion made by Lehman, second by Solomon. All in favor?
Aye.
Fees have been waived.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think it's very important to note that we brought forward this recommendation today because this was the first offense on this property. And when the property owners received that citation, they reached out to staff within that 10 days that they're given and tried to make arrangements. There was some communication issues, but there was effort on their part. It was the first offense, and we do acknowledge that potentially there could have been some communication that they were confused by.
Well, I think that is in the best spirit of the law and the season, so thank you very much. Okay, so do we acknowledge this? Do we vote on it? Okay. Motion to acknowledge this request and waive and clean up the assessment fee. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passes. 21. Now we're there. Pamela Maslak requests to waive cleanup assessment fees at 1301 North 7th Street. And as we've heard, she has some concerns about the way that it was handled, and I'll go to Community Development Director Vicki Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do appreciate that you did allow testimony from Pamela already. It is important to note that this is the 9th citation that we've had to issue on this property under the same ownership. In 6 of those instances, they did clean the property, but on the other 2, because we are talking about 1 today, we did have to abate those for similar dollar amounts as what you're seeing today. We received numerous complaints from the neighborhood regarding this property, and we continue to. It seems to be a repeating issue on this property. In this instance, staff did go out. We provided the citation. It gave them 10 days to either submit a written notice of appeal to me, or our number is provided so they can call and say, we have a family situation. We're going to be out of town. And folks do use that. We routinely work with them if we need to give them additional days. We did not receive any correspondence during that time. In that citation, it notes that after that date, they're given 10 days to address the issue or to file that appeal. We then do make arrangements to go out and inspect the property. When we contact the company to come and actually do the abatement, we don't know when they're going to get out there. We have to fit into their schedule. In this case, there were large amounts of items that had to be removed. They included trash, garbage, furniture, appliances, rotting food, feces, bicycle and bicycle parts, household furniture, and many other miscellaneous debris. We utilized a company we've used many times, North 40 Landscaping. They do really good work. If they are going through and abating a property and they see items that are not clearly broken, or even if there's to them, they set them to the side. They take pictures to show that they are somewhat inoperable, and they document that. We have numerous pictures on this property that show the state that it was in. And again, this is the 9th citation that we've had to issue. Again, it is a concern for the neighborhood. We did not receive any correspondence from them other than the appeal that you've got before you today. We are very concerned that, especially on these properties that are repeat offenders, that the council take the position to enforce the abatements that are put in place. Because if it is deemed that council will take consideration and start waiving these fees, you're going to have a room full of people that are going to be sitting here wanting that same consideration. I think that the team is very compassionate. We even had an inside discussion about 'tis the season, give consideration where we can, and anyone that reaches out to us, we're trying to pass that forward to work with them. That wasn't the case here. I did leave a message with Pamela when she arrived at council 2 meetings ago, or last city council meeting. I was put on notice that she was trying to get to this meeting, and so I did call the number that she had left. I left a message. I received no phone call back. So with that, we stand behind the fee of $2,550. That's $2,400 to North 40 Landscaping, $50 administrative fee for code enforcement's portion of it, and then there's a late fee of $100.
All right. Pamela, would you have anything to say to what Vicki just has reported to us? You can get that down a little bit more. That's fine. It won't break.
Well, I'm disabled and I am on the property myself. I just recently have a boyfriend and he's helping me. But she says there's 9 citations. They've only been to the house one other time. That was last year. They had to clean up. My dad and my brother both died of cancer within a year and a half of each other, and I was caretaker for them. Things did get behind. But at that time last year, they did not complete the cleanup at the property. In fact, it's still on the north side of the house, still has the same rocks per se, leaves, whatever. And I believe that one was paid for at the time, but this time, the second time, we figured they finished the yard the first time on the 27th or something when they finally did show up. So then everything was clean at that time. Then we started getting the stuff we needed to fix up Newell and get it, you know, with stuff in. That they could have communicated that they had to come back for the backyard. What is permissible for that backyard? I have trees, bushes all around it. I do have a ballpark immediately after the easement. And if you pay taxes, what's to say you can't have in your backyard my excess furniture and such?
Well, we do have regulations on those. We have codes for what you can have in your yard and what you can, what's considered reasonable, what's considered not reasonable. It sounds from the description of things that gotten out a little bit out of hand. I know it sounds like you had some rough times, but regardless, the person that owns the property is responsible to keep it in good shape, especially for helping out their neighbors, you know, to keep wild skunks, whatever, from just living there. And we've seen this a lot over the years. But, you know, you were sent 9 notices, and from what I can tell, maybe you got 2 of them, but I've got to go with what I'm told by Vicki from our department. And so if 9 were sent and not all of them received by you, it's unfortunate, but nonetheless, I feel that you do owe the money to the city and to have the cleanup done. And I'll now go to anybody else on the council.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Jason Solomon makes a motion to deny the request for the reasons given, and Lance Lehman makes a second. All in favor? Aye. Sorry, ma'am.
Thank you.
You can come to Monday's meeting too. You can make a case that Monday night too. Okay, that's at 6:30.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Meeting's adjourned.